The late autumn sun filtered through the large glass panels of Ridgewood High School's atrium, streaking the cafeteria tables with lines of soft gold. Students moved in clusters, laughing, arguing, scrolling through their phones, trading jokes and gossip, each lost in their small world, unaware that everything in that building was about to shift in a way they would remember for years. No one expected a confrontation. No one imagined a moment so raw, so shocking, it would silence the cafeteria mid-breath. No one thought the quiet new director, the woman who walked with calm steps and careful eyes, would be the one to change the heart of the school's most feared bully. Her name was Dr. Celine Carter, 41 years old, first month on the job, soft-spoken but firm, carrying presence the way some people carried armor, lightly, invisibly but unmistakably. She was not just a director. She was a woman who had survived storms she never talked about, and whose silence carried a power no one fully understood. Students didn't know her yet. Teachers admired her, but didn't quite believe things could change. And the school itself, the culture, the energy, the tension felt like a tightly sealed bottle waiting for a spark. That spark had a name: Jackson High, 17 years old. Tall, athletic, magnetic, and dangerous in all the ways that came from growing up with too much privilege and absolutely no boundaries. For years, he had walked Ridgewood's halls like a king whose crown was made of fear. Students moved out of his way. Teachers avoided confrontation. Even security had learned to let things slide. Jackson didn't ask for power. He simply took it. And on that particular day, he woke up angrier than usual, irritated by a bad grade, annoyed by a rumor spreading about him, and most of all, frustrated that the new director had already called him into her office twice. She had spoken to him calmly, not with fear, not with softness, just truth. And Jackson hated truth. By lunch hour, the pressure in his veins boiled over. The cafeteria became his arena. His friends hyped him, laughed at every cruel joke, followed him like shadows. Students watched from corners, anxious, hoping not to be noticed. Meanwhile, Dr. Celine Carter sat alone at a far table, reviewing documents on student programs she hoped to start: mental health clubs, anti-bullying initiatives, leadership training for struggling teens. She had passion, vision, and a heart, still healing from the childhood she rarely let herself remember. But even passion cannot predict what cruelty will choose to do. A loud crash echoed from the far side of the cafeteria. Jackson shoving a freshman's lunch tray, food splattering across the floor. Laughter followed. A video started recording. Dr. Celine lifted her head, already rising from her seat with slow, deliberate calm. Before she could reach the boy, Jackson turned and saw her, his jaw locked, his chest tightened. Every frustration, every insecurity, every wound he refused to admit he carried boiled to the surface. He didn't walk toward her. He charged. Conversations faltered. Phones lifted. A wave of silence rippled through the cafeteria like wind over still water. Dr. Celine stood still, hands relaxed by her sides, eyes steady. Not frightened, not angry, just seeing him in a way no adult ever had. Jackson hated that. "You think you can control me?" He shouted. "You think you can change this school? You're nothing here." Students gasped, some laughing nervously, others pulling back, unsure what was about to happen. Celine spoke softly. "Jackson, stop. Let's talk." But anger doesn't listen. Jackson stepped closer, too close, and in one sudden, violent moment, he lifted his foot and kicked her table, slamming it against her side. Her papers scattered like startled birds. Gasps erupted. He then tried to kick her. It happened in slow motion, the kind of slow motion that stretches seconds into entire lifetimes. His foot came flying. Her shoulder braced. The cafeteria froze. She did not strike back. She did not shout. She did not even raise her voice. She simply steadied herself, stood tall, and looked at him with something he had never seen in a grown-up before. A sorrowful understanding. That look, soft but unbreakable, made even Jackson falter for half a second. She spoke quietly, but her words felt as heavy as stone in water. "Jackson, who hurt you so deeply that you think hurting others is the only way to feel strong?" He blinked. A ripple of whispering spread across the cafeteria, confusion mixing with disbelief. She continued, "You don't scare me. I'm not your enemy. I see a boy who is drowning in pain he refuses to name, because naming it would make it real." His breathing grew ragged. His friends stepped back. Students held their breath. For the first time in years, Jackson Holloway was not untouchable. He was human, exposed, trembling rage masking a wound no one had ever asked about. Then she said the line that shattered the silence. "You don't have to be the villain in your own story." He stared at her. Something flickered behind his eyes, fear, confusion, grief. Maybe all three, but he couldn't handle it. So he did what wounded people do. When truth hits too deep, he ran. He burst out of the cafeteria, pushing through the doors before anyone could see the wild swirl of emotion storming across his face. For hours, the school whispered. By afternoon, the confrontation had already spread through every hallway, every classroom. Teachers whispered behind closed doors. Students watched the doorways, wondering if consequences were coming, if punishment would be severe, if the legendary Jackson Holloway was finally about to fall. But Dr. Celine Carter shocked them all. She didn't suspend him. She didn't call the police. She didn't cancel his future. She called him into her office, and instead of anger, she offered him a chance, not a free pass, not forgiveness without responsibility. A chance to rebuild himself, to understand himself, to face the pain he had buried beneath arrogance and cruelty. She invited him to join a new program, one she created for students who struggled with behavior, trauma, and emotional instability. At first, he refused. Then he avoided her. Then he exploded at her again. But she did not quit. And slowly, painfully, layer by layer, Jackson's anger cracked open. Group sessions revealed what few knew. A father who left without goodbye. A mother who numbed herself with silence. A childhood of being taught that emotions were weakness. A boy who felt invisible unless he made others shrink in fear. By the fourth week, he stayed after school to help clean classrooms. By the sixth, he apologized to the freshmen he had humiliated. By the eighth, he stood up for a student being bullied. The school watched shocked, hesitant, hopeful. And as Jackson changed, the students around him changed too. The cafeteria, once a battlefield, became a space where people actually felt safe. Clubs grew. Volunteers rose. Conversations shifted. One morning, months later, the school gathered for an assembly. Dr. Celine Carter stepped onto the stage, radiant in calm confidence. Her voice filled the hall with warmth and quiet strength. She didn't talk about rules. She didn't talk about discipline. She talked about grace, about the courage it takes to face yourself, about the bravery hidden inside broken youth. Behind her, helping organize notes and slides, stood Jackson Holloway. Head high, shoulders steady, eyes softer than they had ever been. When she finished speaking, the entire school rose to their feet in applause, not for control, not for authority, but for the hope she had given them. For the first time in his life, Jackson felt seen not as a monster, not as a threat, but as a young man with a future, a young man who had chosen change, a young man who was no longer afraid to feel. Asterisk if this story touched your heart. Please like, share, and subscribe to Empathy Stories. And before you scroll away, tell us in the comments.